A quietness of spirit now permeates my body and mind, and my stored up energy is released to flow freely through my system. A quietness of spirit now permeates my body and mind, and my stored up energy is released to flow freely through my system. That's right. A quietness of spirit now permeates your body and mind, and all your stored up energy is released to flow freely through your system. And every day, in every way, you become more peaceful and harmonious. Your new, mellow, and confident self-image is a projection of who you are. It is. You are mellow and self-confident. And I'm now going to give you some key trigger words for post-hypnotic conditioned response. Anytime you feel the slightest bit nervous, simply stop what you're doing, close your eyes, breathe deeply, and say these words quietly to yourself. Quietness of spirit. The words, quietness of spirit.
Quelli di oro that's why I hear the argument. Well, they elected him. How many people in walking down the street actually know what the Fed Reserve does? So when people make this argument, well, that the Federal Reserve is doing this, we elected him to manage the Fed. What are you talking about? The average person probably couldn't explain what the Fed even does. So this argument that, well, we elected him to manage the Fed, and you don't actually know what the Fed does. Most people don't know what the EPA does. Most people don't know what the SEC does. So this argument, in my opinion, and this is only my opinion, kind of falls flat because these organizations are supposed to be independent because they're supposed to protect people from fraud. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah. And this is, I do think that we're in a world that is very different than the 18th century, right? And we have a complex array of regulatory agencies that's responded to that complexity, right? And so, it does beg the question, like, is it, do you need to have some of this independence for these things to be properly regulated or not? You mentioned anything else, Jeff?
Many of these organizations were created because something happened, and that something that happened had a negative effect on the population at writ large, and so we created these organizations to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Glass-Steagall was a disaster, allowing banks to sell securities and then also allowing, investment firms to open up checking accounts. It was not a good idea, and we corrected it. But now they want to undo the corrections, to Abby's point, because private industry wants to make money. Private industry can make money without doing all these things.
Thank you, Darryl. Appreciate your perspective. Always articulate and energetic, and great to hear from you. The great one, El Normo, my friend here. El Normo, are we recognizing the proper extension of presidential power? Are we making King Donnie here, Norm? What are we doing here? What's the court doing?
Well, thank you, Scott. Wonderful, energetic moderation on your part. And I just want to respond in passing to the last remark about corporations making money. There's I think a massive misunderstanding about making money, as though somehow the pie is finite. When in fact, when corporations make money, the economy grows. And when the economy grows, there's more money for everybody, and there's more money for the government to spend on good things for the voters, good things for the populace. So, as a small example, New York was dirty, dangerous, broke before Giuliani. It was a mess. And Mayor Giuliani, having shepherded us through the Arab terrorist attacks of 9/11 by Al-Qaeda, lured businesses back by giving them tax breaks. And the city, because corporations came back, the city became prosperous, safe, and clean. And there were no more people, there were no more Hoovervilles of squatters living in Tompkins Square Park or under bridges like the Williamsburg Bridge or over by the 79th Street boat basin, and people could walk the streets again. That's what happened under Giuliani, because he lured corporations back. So corporations making money, good, not bad. Economy growing, good, not bad. But let's talk about Donnie for a second. King Donnie. What we saw under the rule of my party, the Democratic Party, was various agencies like the FBI out of control, thinking that somehow they were the government, not the elected officials. So you had the chief of the FBI, Comey, blackmailing both candidates, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, thinking somehow now that he was the president, he was because again he was not being reined in. We had prosecutors under Trump's under Biden's administration, charging the president with nuisance suits. For example, trying to charge him 34 times because he signed an NDA with a stripper, which is just a joke. Again, under Democratic rule, we had Jews being hunted down on Ivy League campuses, Columbia and Harvard. This was out of control. What we saw was that liberalism, which again has defined my life, being used against liberals, being used as a weapon to destroy the very system that had created it. So as awkward and clumsy and vulgar as Trump is, and nobody could argue this, as uninformed and petty and petulant and childish as he is nevertheless a necessary corrective to a system that had slipped into insanity. When somebody, I forget what the Voltaire expression is, if they can make you believe the impossible, then they can make you do the irrational. So again, quite sorry to have to again reiterate this. If they're going to tell you that boys have periods and need tampons and can get pregnant, something is very, very wrong. If they're going to tell you that girls can fight against boys and necessarily they're going to get their heads beaten in, something is very, very, very wrong. If they can tell you that Israel, which is obviously being surrounded by subversive terrorists that want to commit genocide, and they sing for the genocide of Israel, they sing for the genocide of America, and yet somehow using Darvo, deflect, attack, and reverse victim and oppressor, somehow they'll tell you that it's these tiny little band of Jews in the desert. Somehow they're committing genocide against 1.5 billion Arabs. It's a joke. And so what we have is somebody who is unsophisticated, Donald Trump, and illiberal, I would say, but speaking common sense and it's pretty much inarguable, right? We had Harvard, I had another thing on my list, Harvard admissions team openly mocking Asians. Oh, they're boring. We don't want them. They're boring. How dare they? That's openly racist. So in the name of fighting racism, you had open racism against certain groups. And it's unacceptable. And so we have this unlikely real estate magnate from Queens, of all places, suddenly being the most powerful man in the world and affirming an American vision and providing a correction to a system that had slipped into insanity. I'll end it there.
Thank you, Norm. Never disappoints with a little bit of controversial spice there. All right, thank you. El Noro, let's go to Alan. Alan, are you there, or are you selling cigars? Do you want to comment or no, my friend? Alan going once, Alan going twice. He's probably making moves here. Let's go over to Faith. Faith, welcome to the stage. Do you think this Supreme Court decision recognizes the proper scope of presidential authority, or is it giving us a king? What do you think, Faith? Faith going once, Faith going twice. All right, let's go to JJ. JJ, what say you with the question of the day? Appropriate recognition of presidential power or dangerous delegation and making us possibly facing King Donnie? What do you
I think that this is an illustration of the complete and utter malleability, porousness of our Constitution. A lot of us, like to revere this Constitution as if it's the greatest thing ever, and it's not, because you see absolute insanity and absurdity like what's going on right now. Yes, this is about King Donnie. He wants to be a king. He literally, I was there's been so many people who have said that he idolizes people like Hitler, like Stalin, like Mussolini. That's why he's, best friends with, Putin and Kim Jong Un and all these people. He admires these people because he wants to be a king. He had everything that he has done with regards to this presidency, because a lot of times people, when I listen to, Republicans and MAGA and I don't know anybody, Trump supporters, they talk, well, what about all the, his first presidency? His first presidency was him just warming up. He was just figuring things out. He was figuring out what he needed to do. This presidency, this is Trump. This is the real Trump that has arrived. Where he's, instead of putting in people like Mike Pence, who actually would push back, who was threatened to be hung on January 6th. Yes, I'm bringing that up because he actually was not a Trump loyalist. Trump was not able to enact his Project 2025 agenda. This is what he wanted from the beginning, and now we're all witnessing it. So yes, the completely lopsided Supreme Court that is, basically just a mouthpiece for Trump and his administration, is basically doing it. This is how he wrote the song. This is exactly what he wanted. Everything is playing out exactly according to plan. People need to realize that this is not anything that any reasonable American would have wanted. I don't think that this is what the forefathers, that founded this country thought that, that they could ever even see the possibility of something happening like this. But this is what happens when, you elect a criminal. But I won't go there too much.
I have a question for you. Does the Supreme Court make its decisions based off what people want or based off the jurisprudence in front of it?
Well, this is the thing. The Supreme Court, I hear what you're saying, but if the Supreme Court is acting with good faith is the key. And my response to that would be, I don't think that when you have a completely lopsided partisan Supreme Court that's favoring one party over another, that you actually get fair and just decisions.
Sounds good. I was just curious. Thank you.
Yeah. So I mean, so I think that one thing that I do agree with when it comes to, and actually I agree with actually a lot of what you said, Marshall. The Supreme Court is not there. That's not his job to be, making law. Congress, we're seeing the complete inefficiency of Congress, and we're seeing, just how easy it is for the Constitution to be, utilized in this nefarious way, in order for, the consolidation of power to someone who, has an authoritarian-like mentality, like Trump. So I think that it's really important that, once the Democrats come back, to power, which they will, it's a blue wave coming, you best believe that, that we start to correct some of the, start to patch up some of the holes, in the Constitution, that we, start to also understand that there's a lot of things that Trump did right in terms of the fact that he was able to basically get his agenda done by any means necessary. I think that he has opened the eyes of a lot of Americans in this country, and even a lot of Democrats, on Capitol Hill, that at the end of the day, if you're getting your agenda, enacted, you can take credit for that, and you're doing what the people want, or what, some people, whatever the case may be. At the end of the day, they don't really care how it gets done. People just care, like what Trump did with immigration. People just care that stuff gets done. So I think that the Democrats, when they come back into power, sooner, hopefully than later, they need to actually do the same thing. I think that, especially what you said about the Supreme Court, I think that we need to get to a Supreme Court that is completely 50-50 Democrat and Republican, so that there is no way that they can have a policy that is unfair and completely partisan, so that you don't have these issues. It shouldn't be about, well, I'm just going to vote, down line with my party or whatever the case may be. It should be about actually evaluating the issues, and that way we can ensure, fairness. So,
Absolutely. JJ, you might find interesting, there's a group called the National Constitution Center. It's the only group funded by Congress to disseminate information about the Constitution on a nonpartisan basis. One year they had Chris Coons as their honorary chair, the senator from Connecticut. And the other year they had Neil Gorsuch as their honorary chair. Anyway, they did this really long exercise with liberal, progressive, and conservative scholars of the Constitution. And they came up with new amendments that might make it more fair. You can find these on podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Live at America's Town Hall is what one was called, or We the People. You might really enjoy them if you're interested in it. When you were talking, it made me think of that.
I'll definitely have to check it out. And I'm just gonna land with this. I think that, it's really important that we, because Trump is, he has a couple of years, and God willing, he will, exit quietly. But it's important that we never ever forget this time period, because I think after Trump, this type of consolidation of power never needs to happen again, and that goes for Democrats or Republicans, because that's not how the country was intended. And
Here, I'm with you. Make the executive way less powerful.
Exactly.
Here, make the president much weaker in terms of the power he or she holds.
Exactly.
I'm 100% with you.
Couldn't agree more with you, gentlemen. Let's.
I'm curious, Jay. I'm curious.
We'll come to you in a second, Daryl. We'll come to you. That was JJ was talking just now, right? Okay. Abby, you went before, right? Already?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
fine.
So now we'll go to Daryl. Daryl Cabot. Daryl, what say you on this question of proper recognition of executive power or dangerous expansion?
I'm going to answer it this way. I remember when I wanted to go to law school, I was taking a constitutional law class at the University of North Texas. I remember a class I hated writing. I hated constitutional law. Never knew it having practical utility. Nonetheless, it was a good day for Americans today. One, they threw out the BS $5 million settlement fiasco of Trump. Mail-in ballots are still a thing. So state rights prevailed, and Trump's got to pay $5 million. Is it America, Grant? The Supreme Court giveth and taketh away. I know Trump's in a tizzy. But you gotta pay up. Here's the thing. I don't know if Trump has done as great a job you guys think he's done. Jay, I don't know if you're being facetious or not. Because if he did such a good job, there would be no blue wave. Right? How do you reward people then when they do a good job? You give them, they get more seats, more Republicans get elected. Senators, upper room, lower chamber, sorry guys, in the hot pocket. I'll be quick. The pendulum is swinging because Trump isn't doing a very good job. Look, I'm an African American, right? It's funny. And it's not funny. I remember seeing the incident with the one lady that got shot by the ICE. That was terrible what happened to her. And it was like, for the first time, not really the first time, white people got to see what black people felt like. Like, but in her instance, I mean, it was just like she kind of. Anyway, it was terrible. R.I.P. And then the other thing with the nurse guy, I can't think of his name. Terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. And then with the Canola Anthony, terrible. Now, these things may not seem like they're have anything to do with each other, but they do. All these things happen under Trump's leadership. Back in my military day, they say it goes from the top down. Top down. All the way up to the top. I remember when I was in Operation Iraqi Freedom, George W. Bush, interestingly enough, he was my governor. I'm from Texas, Texas Army National Guard, and he was my commander-in-chief. I graduated high school in 2002, 9/11 happened my senior year. I remember when I got on that train for the first, not train, the airplane for the first time. I went down to Fort Knox, Kentucky, you know the place where NOCO is at? Home of the Cab Scouts and the Tankers. Man, those were good old days. And then I went to Augusta, Georgia, Fort Gordon, Signal guy. And I went back and did some training down, and man, the military made a man out of me. I remember being in AIT, all they did was let us watch war movies, you know, the usual suspects. Full Metal Jacket, Apocalypse Now, Platoon, Saving Private Ryan, those types of movies. Band of Brothers. I want to go over there and kill some Iraqis. That's what you think of when you're 18 years old. Anyway, I digress. What I guess I'm trying to say is this, guys. Trump is going to lose because Trump is not doing the will of the people. The people are Finkel. I think deep down, a lot of Republicans don't really like Trump. I hear whispers. They're just waiting for this guy to fall. It's kind of like when Julius Caesar got stabbed by those senators. Everybody had to take a stab. It's not a possibility. You see, if it could happen to Julius Caesar, it can happen to anybody. And the Torah. They say there's nothing new under the sun. The more I live, I'm 42 years old, I probably got another 40 summers. The more the Bible is proven to be right. There's nothing new under the sun. Trump Day will come and go, just like everyone else's day will go. This country is 250 years old this year, guys. You know, my favorite Broadway show is Hamilton. And I'm in about 60 seconds, I'll get off this stage and get off my soapbox. I've seen Hamilton. I try to watch Hamilton in Chicago. I try to watch it in New York. I try to watch it in London. We couldn't get any, me and my ex-wife, we couldn't find any seats. I was very distraught. One day my wife or ex-wife came to me, she says, Terrell, I found some tickets for Hamilton. I really didn't know what the Hamilton was about, guys. All I knew is that freaking, Pence hated it. That's all I knew. And I didn't like Pence. So I wanted to watch Hamilton. Just because they said, screw Pence. So my wife told me, or ex-wife, we were married 19 years, guys, bear with me. So say wife, first wife, ex-wife, whatever. She said, I found these tickets. I'm like, you did? I don't know why I was excited, but we found it in Dallas. We're named in Dallas. You know, I still need to go by and watch that George W. Bush's his presidential libraries at SMU. I got into SMU. Would you believe this poor black guy graduated second from the bottom of his high school class, got into SMU, raising to build 40 VA clinics, $247 million, guys. Yeah. I remember this day from an Indian doctor too, who came to the United States with $7. Doctor said, God, for Encore Enterprises. What a crook. Anyway, next thing you know, would I lose my place? I'm sorry, guys, you gotta give me a newer divergent.
That's all right. That's all right. I think you were wrapping up.
Oh, yeah, I'm wrapping up, Scott. 30 seconds or less. Oh, yeah, that's right. Pendulum swinging back the other way. Trump not doing a very good job. gonna lose. Actually, we'll see pushback. There was an incident, something not too long ago. Trump was trying to do something with some national election stuff. I can't remember exactly what it was, and Greg Abbott pushed back on Trump. It was a rare sighting. He says, Trump, I think we like things the way we do things here in Texas. And I was like, yes, get him, Greg Abbott, get him Hot Wheels. He set Trump down. You know, another guy set Trump down. I can't think of his name. He's the CEO of Citadel. He got an op-ed. He told Trump in regards to the black lady, the first black girl. He said, Trump, you're meddling in affairs you shouldn't be meddling in. Give her her job. The Fed must remain independent. Next thing you know, she got her stuff back. She got her job back. That's when I knew it was a little bit more nuanced. See, the Koch brothers don't like Trump. The Bushes don't like Trump. They never forgot about the stuff that he said about the brother, the one that was in Florida. Bush is a real powerful family.
All right, here we are. Now, you're kind of all over the place off the topic. It's all right. It's all right.
So,
It's all right.
You do know that there's nothing on this side, and that every
There you go.
time that there was a lame duck president, this is in regards to one gentleman named Jay that was talking about the blue wave was coming. It was coming, but it wasn't coming for the reason why he was coming. It was coming because it was coming anyway.
All right, John, I'm gonna have you wrap up because you're getting kind of far afield. But thank you. I appreciate your contribution.
I'll tell you, you're not a political science major, are you, Scott?
Well, I was not a political science major. I'm just trying to mod the room here.
I can tell you, political science major, art, economics. Would you grab
Yeah, I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna move on to Murad. Murad, welcome to the stage. Do you think this recent Supreme Court decision is a proper recognition of presidential authority or a dangerous expansion of the executive's power? What do you think, Murad?
Scott, bună seara, also Marshall and Alan. Scott, at all, today's movements of President Trump and his facing and confront with Supreme Court affirms my proclaim that Donald Trump is trying to stay on power, to remain in power in 2028 by means of the Iran war case. He is...
Laurent, how would you do that?
He is moving step by step in Iran's war case. And imagine a day in the next steps of war with Iran, imagine a day that U.S. Army captured and siege some oil island, Marshall? Sorry. Imagine a day that U.S. Army would capture some oil islands of Iran's territorial integrity in the next steps of war, and the suicide operations of IRGC will develop, and the country, the America, will locate on severe war status. So, based on U.S. Constitution, on severe war status, by means of the vote of Supreme Court, Trump remains on power in 2028, and I think that's a postmodern framers call for America. That's it. Back to you, Scott.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Murad. Let's go to DJ, Jesse. What do you think? Did the Supreme Court just give us a king? Or is this just what we need in a president? What do you think, DJ? DJ, it looks like he's going to be on the phone right now. Let's go back to Daryl. Daryl wanted to get back in. Daryl, more thoughts, it looks like. What do you have?
Yeah, so
I asked for some latitude here. I came up because I think something that I said earlier was misunderstood because a speaker came up and said, something. I absolutely said that businesses should be able to make money and businesses can make money and we can keep regulation in place, right? Staying on topic, my comment was about his relentless attack on the Federal Reserve Bank, his relentless attack on government agencies that mostly regulate, So an example that I would like, an example is, any of you guys familiar with what a slab is, SLAB?
What you mean, like a giant sheet of concrete for houses on top of? I don't know what you mean.
No, this one's even sexier, right? So SLAB stands for Student Loan Asset-Backed Securities. So at some point, someone went to the federal government, similar to the mortgage, to putting mortgages, wrapping mortgages and investments and selling them to the public. I'm at a, it's World Cup. I'm out here hanging out. So you might hear some music in the background. So someone goes to the government and they say, hey, let us create an investment pool, and this pool is going to be filled with student loans, right? Right now, there's about $67 billion in student loan slabs, student loan asset-backed securities that are sitting on the books of Wall Street. We are currently looking at what could possibly be a student loan bubble similar to the mortgage bubble. And there are about $167 billion in student loans that are in default right now. And a lot of economists, through the noise as to what everything else that's happening, is trying to sound the alarm. Hey, these student loans, people aren't paying these loans. The average borrower, I think, is under 40, and we could be looking at another massive bubble.
Daryl, can I have a question about that?
Yeah,
Were these
sure.
securitized? Was this fund securitized, and what was the due diligence when they securitized it?
So that's a great question, Abby, because no one really knows. It's securitized, but because if you think about it, unlike your traditional mortgage, which you can discharge in bankruptcy, student loans cannot be discharged. Student loans, I think alimony, child support, and back taxes are like the four things that I believe cannot be discharged. So the idea is, once you apply for a student loan, they're going to get blood from that stone for the rest of your life until you pay it back. And they are wrapped in investments at different firms on Wall Street. And again, there's about $67 billion in slabs, and we're looking at $170 billion bubble right now. And if the slab bubble reacts the way the market bubble did, then there's going to be a massive credit crunch. People don't understand. They say, well, I don't have a student loan. Credit crunches won't affect me. It will affect you. Because even if you don't have a credit card, by the way, I saw something last week. I don't know if maybe it was a London report. 92% of credit card users are like literally using 80% of their credit card limit, and they're making the minimum payment. So if you look at this historically and statistically, many of these people are going to default. It's just going to happen, right? So credit affects everybody, because credit affects your local store, because they have to borrow at higher interest rates to buy supplies. They're going to pass those costs down to you. If you look around, almost everything is up everywhere. And to Abby's question, most of this stuff is not heavily regulated. Someone lobbies, hey, we can create more, and again, I'm a capitalist. I've always worked in private industry. I spent 16 years on Wall Street. I believe in the creation of money. But at some point, when some dragon walks into Congress and says, hey, we figured out a new way to create money, let us wrap investments secured by student loans because you can't default on them. Someone at some point should just say no to some of these things. Wall Street, my alma mater, is always going to be looking for ways to create new money. Governance and regulation is supposed to protect the average person from some of this stuff.
But
Right.
Daryl,
Yeah.
quick question. But since you work in the industry, do you think that Dodd-Frank and some of these regulatory provisions that came in and the legislation that came in was strapping, too much of a fetter on the ability to lend and the ability to conduct business? I mean,
Well-
some of it, or maybe too overreaching with
Well,
Dodd-Frank.
no, because
And I
Dodd-Frank was
understand why Dodd-Frank came in and we needed it.
it was a reaction, right?
It was a reaction.
So most of this stuff it's like 911, right? Cops get called to react to something. Cops, unless you just like something's happening right in front of them, police are a reactionary force. Dodd-Frank was a reaction. So if there really is this student loan bubble that they really think is about to pop, and $171 billion in debt goes into default, and then no one wants to lend money anymore, we're gonna see another version of Dodd-Frank because most of the time they're reacting to something, right? As opposed to regulatory boards looking at some of this legislation and saying, okay, you can't do this. I get the idea of wealth generation. I get the idea of making money, but some of this stuff, if it's going to impact every single person, because a credit crunch will impact your car notes. It will impact your car leasing credit amounts. It will impact you borrowing. It will impact your life in every way. It doesn't matter if you're a millionaire or if you're just some guy walking down the street. No one lending at institutional levels will eventually trickle down to you. And at some point, again, lobbyists lobby, but at some point, when the investment banks come in and they say, hey, we figured out a way to generate new money, someone should be able to just say, no, I don't think that this is in the interest of the people, and just say, no, Wall Street will figure out a way to make money. They always do. But you don't have to let them do everything. Because their interests are only the interest.
Sorry. What happened if all these thief hands is on the same pot? The way you say somebody's backing each other.
Say that one more time, Alan.
I said the way you're explaining looks like all these thieves are in charge. All them hands is in the same bucket.
Well, yeah, but
Reaching, and we are the one we are doing. I don't understand because I see in the market, I'm in the middle of people. People income is drop and expenses is going outrageous up.
Yeah, and that's before I talked about the personal consumption expenditure index, people are spending less money right now. And if people are spending money, then the Fed is likely going to...
Because they don't have money to spend.
Yeah, they don't. Because, I mean, that's just a whole other room, Alan. But what I'm trying to say, going back to the point, is that regulatory institutions are supposed to protect regular people. They're not supposed to just be there, for pomp and circumstances. They're supposed to be there to protect pointy-headed cretins from destroying the country. And so in this case, if there is a student loan bubble that pops, you might see what happened with the mortgage meltdown. And Lehman Brothers is gone. When I first got onto Wall Street, Lehman Brothers was always there. Bear Stearns is gone. These are institutions that most of us thought would never go away. And they pick and choose who they're going to cut loose. And if this $171 billion bubble pops, which I really hope it doesn't, you know, it could be blood on the streets again, but it's going to be with very specific firms. And they're going to figure out a way to sell this debt to collection agencies. Usually the government will start, you know, what they do with federal loans and default, they just start garnishing paychecks. They're going to get their blood. So if you originally had like a 5-year student loan and you default, they're going to chase you until you stop working. They're going to get their money, and it's just these things are not good for the populace in general.
Thank you, Daryl. William's back up. I think he can hear now, I hope. William, are you back with us, my friend? Can you hear? Can you contribute? William, maybe not. All right, so William going once, William going twice. All right, everybody. Well, 6:42, seeing no speakers.
I'm back.
Oh, there you go. All right, William, you're here. What do you think, William, as the Supreme Court recognized appropriately the limits and purview of executive power, or did they go a long way to making us have King Donnie up there? What do you think?
You know, I agreed with a lot of the legal analysis I was able to hear earlier that Abby presented. The legal analysis about Humphrey's executor, and the other cases was in my view a really good analysis. I agree with Abby's analysis. I come to some different conclusions, but not entirely different. I'm not really in disagreement with the analysis. So there's a theme that's going on in the Trump 2.0 White House of implementation of the unitary executive theory, which is basically something that Russell Vogt was able to work on in the interregnum between Trump 1.0 and Trump's second taking of the presidency. So it's a very unusual thing, but this was something that was really worked on for a number of years, and it was in a large and somewhat complicated document. A lot of these efforts to expand executive power are set forth in Project 2025. So the NPR article that you read portions of, excerpts of, I think was really spot on. And this is an expansion of executive power. I think it's an expansion at the cost of overriding case law. And this is this issue is a long, complicated issue that stretches back to the years before we had really established administrative law, which was never contemplated or vaguely complicated as a possibility when the Constitution was framed. But it turns out that this is something that has been approved with law, under various legislative terms of the Congress and the Senate, and laws were enacted which effectively limit executive power. This opinion, and I haven't had a chance to read it or research it as much as I would like to, but it cuts into that body of case law of statutes and regulations that were approved by Congress, and consistent with the implementation of the unitary executive theory, it increases, in this instance, executive power at the expense of legislative power, which and laws that were enacted over the course of 100 years, 80 years. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at it, but yeah, this is a real expansion of executive power, and that is what the majority, the current majority on the Supreme Court, has been consistent about doing for Donald J. Trump. And the danger of this is that the expansion of executive power that's contrary to what the framers likely intended when the pendulum swings is going to empower another executive to exercise power in a way that really undermines the checks and balances that were originally contemplated in the Constitution for the purpose of having limited governments, limited branches of the federal government, limited power of the federal government compared to state governments, and not contemplated in the original a limitation of the power of the executive to override statutes, regulations, and administrative agencies that were set up by congressional statutes with the intention of being independent of the executive, so that it's just really going to grant large power to Trump that is beyond what we've seen in the past. Can you characterize that as a gift to King Donnie? I think it's a gift. I think it's an implementation of the unitary executive theory, which is something that even Bill Barr advocated for. But then he pulled back after January 6th, or actually after the build-up to January 6th. So a lot of these threads can be tied together, and a lot of the different conflicting opinions that like Dr. Francine had can be reconciled, but it takes more research and more detailed discussion in order to do that kind of reconciliation. And I think Abby was on the right track.
All right, thank you, William. Thank you so much for that contribution. Very articulate and thoughtful, as usual. And thank you, everybody, for being here at the Critical Thinking Forum. And I'll just leave us with some words from our great leader, who might be our new king.
Nobody can do it like me. Nobody can do it like me. Honestly.
Nobody's stronger than me.
Nobody has better toys than I do. There's nobody bigger or better at the military than I am. Nobody loves the Bible more than I do. Nobody builds what's better than me. Nobody's better to people with disabilities than me. Nobody's fighting for the veterans like I'm fighting for the veterans.
There's nobody that's done so much for equality as I have.
There's nobody more pro-Israel than I am. There's nobody more conservative than me. There's nobody that respects women more than I do. Nobody would be tougher on ISIS than Donald Trump. Because nobody's ever had crowds like Trump has had. There's nobody that understands the horror of nuclear better than me. But nobody even understands it but me. It's called devaluation, the sale of the uranium that nobody knows what it means. I know what it means. Nobody knows more about trade than me. Nobody knows the game better than I do. Nobody's in the history of this country has ever known so much about infrastructure as Donald Trump. I know the H-1B, I know the H-2B. Nobody knows it better than me. Nobody knows politicians better than I do. Nobody knows more about taxes than I do. Nobody knows more about debt than I do. Nobody knows the system better than me. I have many friends. Many friends. All of my friends, so many. Steve, I see over here. Marco Rubio is a very, very good friend of mine. Tom Brady's a friend of mine. My friend Elton John. George Steinbrenner was a good friend of mine. Howard Stern was a friend of mine. We've been friends for a long time. A friend of mine is a great manufacturer. A friend of mine is a great excavator. I have a friend who builds plants. I have friends that are reporters. A friend of mine who's in law enforcement. My best friends have become fire marshals. The generals have become very good friends of mine. My biker friend. A friend who's a doctor. A friend who's a farmer. I know the insurance companies. They're friends of mine. I have many friends that are liberal, and I think they're wonderful people. I have friends that are wonderful business people. I have friends that are very wealthy people. Friends of mine go bankrupt. I have many friends who are women, and I have some very strong friends.
That's right, my friends.
friend who's a very smart guy and a very streetwise guy.
Friend of mine. That's right, my friends. Nobody does it. Nobody does it better. Nobody does it better.
Well, Scott, I'm glad he didn't say two things. He's not better cigar salesman, and I'm not his.
Absolutely. Nobody does it better. At least in his own words, my friend. And nobody does it better on this app than our dear leader, Gary Baumgartner, who couldn't be here today because I think the alarm clock failed. But nobody is as good an audience as you guys, the critical thinking forum audience. So this goes out to you, everybody. Nobody does it better on Clubhouse than you all. Thank you, everybody, and we will see you tomorrow.
I thought it was your mama that was gonna cuss me out first lady. I ain't gonna hold you. Oh shit, Britt on stage.
My sister Britt has taught me first lady the footbed, and I have learned. So yes, I have been watching it through the power of Britt and Don and your mama and Igor. It's just fun.
Britt charged just up the other day. I said, God damn, I just came in the room, sis. I wasn't here. They told Britt she really hadn't been a fan from the get-go, and Britt said, I know you fucking lying.
Exactly.
Without every jersey she had in that closet.
Exactly.
All us up on stage. I shut up. But when she left, I was talking again.
Exactly. Penny was over there eating her food, like Safari did that one day when they were fighting down at that picnic on that TV show. But first, currently they are in stoppage. What looks like for the extra time that they're playing. If Germany does not put this away and this goes to penalties, they are definitely going to be out in the round of 16. So, cheers to that.
Britt, shut the fuck up, bitch. Get back in the